What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of your women.
All right, welcome in, everybody. This is going to be mostly for the new coaches coming into the OFL. A quick rundown of the rules, the major points. Not an in-depth look, but definitely an overarching view, so that it'll help everybody that's new coming in that doesn't know what the OFL is about, to hopefully be able to get accustomed and adjusted to it a little bit easier and quicker. So, to start with, the old OFL is the Old World Football League. It is set up to closely mimic the NFL, North American NFL League, as much as possible. So a lot of the stuff you're going to see is very similar to how the NFL is run and works. So I'm just going to go through the rules here. This is the rules for season 24. The new season will be starting soon, which is season 25. These rules will be mostly the same. There might be a few minor touch-ups or changes, but for the most part, the core base rules will be the same. So, the basic gist of the OFL, there are 3 eras. One era consists of three full seasons. A season is 14 weeks long and then has playoffs after that. So you're going to have, with the playoffs and everything, a full season will take probably about 20 weeks total time, with all the in-between stuff that has to be done, the admin work, getting leagues, comps set up, all that kind of stuff. So you're looking at about a 20 week long season per season. And then after 3 of those, that era will be completed and the new era will start. So, at the beginning of the first season of an era, all teams will be brand new teams. So there's no carryover of teams after season 3. Everybody starts fresh, basically. And when you start with a fresh new team, you start at 1.15 gold to build that team. So not your typical 1,000 gold to start, it's 1150. And you'll find out here in a little bit that there's more stuff you can do to build your team up. So typically we'll have 48 teams. Sometimes we might get up to 60. We very rarely have went under 48. 48 seems to be the sweet spot. What we do is we have 4 conferences. Each conference will have 12 teams in that conference. So you have the AFC, the NFC, the WFC, which are your 3 North American conferences, and then you have the LFC, which is your European-based conference. So 12 teams per conference. And then within that 12-team conference, there will be 4 divisions. And each of those divisions 3 divisions. Each of those divisions will have 4 teams in it. So that makes up your 12 teams. And those divisions are, for instance, the AFC North, the AFC South, and the AFC Central. And you'll have 4 teams in each of those. The way the schedule will work is the first 11 weeks, you will play the other 11 teams in your conference one time. And then we will have a slight break while we put teams into their actual divisions, their 4-team divisions. And you'll play your 3 division mates a second time, because you'll play your 3 division mates once during the first 11 games. So you'll get 11 games against your conference, and then 3 more games against your division foes to give you 2 games against your division foes. You won't play teams in the other conferences at all unless you get to the Final 4 in the playoffs. Then you'll potentially play not potentially, you will play teams from other conferences if you make it that far. So there's your schedule. Basically, that's what we just went over. League persistence, it operates over multiple eras, like I said. Eras have 3 season blocks. In the beginning of each era, all franchises reset, start with 1150. I basically mentioned that. So what we'll have is we have a preseason race draft, and this is where it's going to get really interesting for all you new coaches. This is one of the funnest and most exciting parts of the OFL is the draft. So basically, we're starting a new era in this upcoming season. So all you new coaches will be getting in at the right time at the start of a new era. And we'll be doing a draft. Now, I'm going to dedicate several minutes here to just how the draft is going to work. So let's get over here. And I'm going to show you, this is the draft for the first season of the last era, or the current era that we're finishing up right now. And you can see kind of how the draft is going to work. So there's several things to this form that we're going to touch on right now. The first thing is each conference of 12 players can only have one of each race. So since we'll have 4 conferences, that means you can only have 4 Chaos Dwarf teams, or 4 Nurgle teams, or 4 Wood Elf teams. Can't have a 5th or more. And that's what you'll notice these counts over here for. 4 Chaos Dwarf teams were drafted, so that means there's 0 left available. One of those Chaos Dwarf teams would go to the LFC, the other 3 would go into the AFC, WFC, and the NFC. So, if you want a Chaos Dwarf team, and you know that's how you want to go for your draft, and your draft order comes up, say, 35th, you're not going to get a Chaos Dwarf team that low. So you would start working on trying to trade up in the draft to get, say, in the top 10 or even the top 6 to try to get that Chaos Dwarf team. You will notice that for whatever reason, I don't have the selections in there. That's weird. Somehow this sheet's gotten erased over the last weeks. On the right. Yeah, I am. That's weird. But I can tell you just from experience, the races that are going to go really quick are your races like the Chaos Dwarfs, the Nurgles, the Orcs, the Chaos potentially. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Necro tend to go pretty quick. So those are your races that are going to be drafted really quick and early. But as the draft progresses, you'll be able to kind of see how things are going, and you'll be able to maybe potentially work things in your favor to get into a better position to pick how you want to pick. So what is going to happen is, before the draft starts, one of the admins will randomize the order, and we'll get all 48 picks, and we'll know how what order they're going to be in. You'll notice that when the draft starts, there's 2 hours in between each pick until you hit 10 o'clock at night, and then it waits, midnight, until you hit midnight. And then it resets, and there's a 12-hour grace period until the next day at noon. So let's say, in this case, Ken had the first pick. So he was at noon. As soon as he makes his pick, Crep went into being on the clock. So he was the next coach to pick. So let's say Ken picked his right at noon. That means Crep now has from noon until 2 the rest of Ken's time, and he still has his 2 hours from 1400 to 1600 from 2 until 4. So Crep now has basically 4 hours to get his pick in. He can immediately make his pick right now, or he can wait 2 or 3 or 4 hours and see if anybody offers him trades to try to get up. And if somebody offers him a trade that's too good to be true, maybe he just takes it and he waits. But let's say that Crep makes his pick immediately. This guy makes his pick immediately. Now Thul's on the line, or on the clock. Now let's say it's 12:30. Thul has from 12:30 until 1800 plus his 2 hours. So you see how that works. It just keeps getting larger and larger. So there'll be plenty of time in between those picks for people to make potential trade offers if they want. So that's how the first part of it's going to work. Now, when this randomized order is set, 2 things are going to be known. The time that you're going to pick for your pick, and how much your starting salary cap is going to be free agent salary cap. That's a whole nother animal that I'll explain here in a little bit. Everybody will also start with one scout in each type. So one A scout, one B scout, one C scout. The commodities that you can offer as trade, if you are trying to trade, are your trade pick, your salary free agent cap, and any or all of your scouts. So let's say, for instance, like I mentioned earlier, you're pick 35. You know you want to get to Chaos Stores. Pick 35. This table right here will show you what the starting salary cap is. So if you're pick 35, you're going to start at 440 free agent cap, right? So you get, what did I say, 440? Yeah, 440. So you've got 440, you've got 1A, 1B, and 1C scout, and you pick 35. And let's say you want to offer Astro at pick 7. And Astro starting at pick 7 only has 305 free agent cap, so it's 135 less. So let's say you want to offer him that spot, and you say, hey Astro, I'll trade you my 35th spot, 200 in free agent cap, and my A scout. And if Astro says yes, that's fine, I'll take it, then you guys swap spots. You swap the free agent cap, and you swap any potential scouts that you offer up. So that's kind of how the trading works. You can trade up or down. You don't have to trade positions. You can just trade salary cap and or scouts. So let's say you're here and you're going to have 50K extra salary free agent cap than what you need. You might say, hey, does anybody want to sell a B scout for 50K in free agent cap? And somebody says, yeah, sure, I'll sell you my B scout for that. So you would get his B scout, you would lose your 50K in salary cap, and the trade's done. Or you can just trade scouts. Hey, I'll trade you my A scout for 2 of your Bs and a C scout, if somebody happened to have gotten an extra B scout through other trades. You'll notice down here, for instance, Manial, who went high elves, chose not to go after any free agents to start. He started with a completely fresh team, so he used all his free agent cap and may have even used some trading positions, I don't remember, to build his scout levels up to 8 A's, 8 B's, and 5 C's. And he just went the route of trying to get some scouts going. And I'll explain the scouts here in a little bit, so you'll understand how that works. So there's a lot of strategy here in the draft of what you can do with trading, all of that kind of stuff. All right, so that's kind of a quick overview of how the draft is going to work. We'll get into the free agent cap and the scouts here in a little bit, but I want to go ahead and keep going through the rules. So I just want to give you a quick idea of how the trading or the draft will work and how the trading will potentially work. Another good example real quick too before I forget. I went with Amazon's this last year, and I had a pretty good idea that there weren't going to be a lot of Amazon teams drafted, and there weren't. There were only 2. So I started real high in the draft order. I think I was 6th or 7th or something like that. So I made several trades, traded down 3 or 4 times. Like I traded from 7th to 14th or 15th or something, and then 15th to like 25th, and then 25th to in the 30s, and then in the 47, however many it was, I don't remember. But each time I traded down, I got more salary cap and I got more scouts. So you can see I started, instead of with 1A, 1B, and 1C, I started with 3A, 3B, and 3C. And I started with a salary cap of, say, 300, give or take, and ended up with a salary cap of 580, which I knew with 580 would be enough to cover getting the 3 free agents that I wanted to start with. So there's a lot to this free agent cap, which I'll explain here in a little bit. But that's another good example of how you can utilize the trading. In this case, I used it to trade down because I knew that I'd have a pretty solid chance of getting Amazon's pretty low, and I was able to boost some of my other commodities in the process. So, all right, back to the rules. So that basically covers pretty much most of the draft. Trading, I explained. Starting free agent cap, I just explained. So, when you draft, you can protect one franchise that you have. So the way franchises work, your team is considered a franchise in the OFL. So 2 eras ago, I played Brett's, and at the end of that season or end of that era, I didn't want to play Brett's again the second era. So I chose to protect my Brett franchise, which you'll notice down here, right there, the Bretonius Chevrolet. I protected them. That means nobody can take that franchise or take any players off of that franchise. That franchise is locked until I decide to do something else with them. Either pick them up and play them again, or release the protection on them, and then they become open to the league. And then when I drafted a new franchise for my Amazon franchise and named it my Final Fantasy. So, at the end of this era, I have an option, or some options that I need to decide. Because I have this new franchise that I'm playing, the Amazons, I can choose to redraft Amazons and play that franchise again. I can choose to draft a different franchise. I could draft my protected Bretonia franchise and play them, and then protect my Amazon franchise to keep that one safe. Or I could draft a new franchise and then decide what I want to do with my Bretts or my Amazons and my Amazons. I could choose to release my Bretts and let them become free agents and protect my Amazon team. Or I can choose to release the Amazon franchise and continue protecting my Bretonian franchise. Whichever one I release, which in this case I'm actually going to release the Amazons, I'm going to keep the protection on the Bretts. So when I release the Amazons, they will become an available franchise that anybody else can draft. So if somebody likes what they see on my Amazon team, they can say, I'm drafting Amazons and I'm drafting the franchise My Final Fantasy, and they take over that team. You have to keep the same team name, but everything else you can change. You don't have to keep any of the players, or you can choose to release all the players or whatever. But the team name stays if you draft an existing franchise. So that's what protecting franchises are. Nothing else there. So during the draft, you'll select your race and your team, I guess, to your spot. You'll franchise players. So that only will happen if you choose an existing franchise. So let's do this. This is my existing Amazon franchise, My Final Fantasy. I'm releasing this franchise. They will be available. If somebody chooses to draft Amazons and take this franchise, what will happen is they get to choose up to any 3 players on this team to keep as their franchise players. No more than 3, but it doesn't have to be 3. It could just be 1 or 2. So, for instance, let's say new coach A decides to draft my franchise, and they want to keep this line woman for 140. They want to keep Fukmi, the legend, for 210. That's 350. And then let's say they want to keep the only other person they really maybe want to keep would be her, but I would doubt it. So let's just say they want to keep those 2 free agents as franchise players. So that's 350 in free agent value that they would be re-signing to stay on the team. Everybody else on the team is released. Anybody that is released that has a permanent injury or is a rookie just disappears. They get fired. They're completely gone from the game. So with this team, you'd lose her, you'd lose this rookie, her, this rookie, her, you'd lose this catcher, and that's it. because you keep Fukumi, she doesn't go away, even though she's perm. She stays as a free agent. Everybody else that's at least level 2 or higher with no perm goes into the free agent market for anybody to pick up as a free agent. So that's kind of how choosing your franchise players works. Now, the 350 that you spend here to keep these 2 franchise players, that will come off of your free agent salary cap that you start with the draft. So if you chose to take my franchise, you'd have to at least make sure you have a salary cap of 350 to cover these 2 girls. Right? So if we go back to here, on your draft, you need to make sure you have at least 350. Now let's say you have 500 in salary cap, free agent cap, and you spent 350 on those 2 players. You still have 150 open to bid on one more free agent when the free agent bidding happens. So you could bid up to 150 on one other player to sign as a free agent at the beginning of the season. You can only ever have 3 free agents on your team at one time. You can never have more than that. Once week 1 completes, everybody's free agent cap goes to 600. So if you start with only 400 in the draft, you can't go above that 400 when you're hiring them to start. But after week 1, you'll jump to 600, and your 3 free agents that you have on your team, when you hire one, you have to be under that 600 cap. You can go over the 600 cap through the season if your free agents level and take you above it, but that's the only way you can go over it. Whenever you hire a new free agent, you have to be under that 600 cap total for all 3 free agents. Okay, so that's kind of the first start of how this free agent cap works. When you're building your team out as well, so let's say in this instance you had the 500 free agent cap like I mentioned, and you spend all 500 of that free agent cap to get your 3 free agents for your team, your new team you're building. That 500 that falls under your free agent cap is good there, but that 500 value for those players comes off of your 1150 starting treasury to build your team. So you now have 3 players worth 500 in team value that comes off that 1150. So that would put you now at 650 to build the rest of your team, get 8 players at a minimum. You could have more than that, plus your 3 free agents, and then your APO, your rerolls, all that stuff. So you'd only have 650 to build out the rest of your team at that point. You have to start the season with 11 players on your roster at a minimum. That does include your free agents. So keep that in mind as you're debating on how you're going to build your team out, how you're going to go after free agents to start the season. So it's a strategy that you have to kind of really pay attention to. Now, player purge. After the draft is done, all players will be added to the free agent market that need to be from franchises that didn't get drafted. And any injured players, like I mentioned earlier, will be purged out of the system, so they won't be in the free agent market anymore. Preseason free agency will have 2 rounds. The first round will be anybody that did not pick a franchise, an existing franchise. So any new teams that are created from the draft will get to participate in the first round of free agency. And then after that round is done, there'll be a second round, and everybody gets to participate in the second round. That second round, when it's finished, then the first week will start. You'll create your team to 1150, as you can see there. We've talked about that. If you are going to use your scout flags, you have to create your player and post that scouted player on the Discord when you create the player. Once you've created the player, if you forgot to scout them, then you can't scout them. You have to use that scout for a different player. The way you do that is you put an A, B, or C after their name. Like you see here, this Blitzer, she was a B Scout. So when I hired her at the beginning of last era, I named her Una X, and then put the in parentheses or braces or brackets, whatever. I put a B to signify she's a B Scout. This one was a C Scout. This one was an A Scout. And the way you do that, post that, is in Discord. You'll go to the created scouts, and you'll follow along with how others have done it. So you can see this guy, 03 Phil Pota, said, I'm using my last scout flag here. Did a screenshot of the player. It's this player, and he's a C Scout. Boom. What happens is once the scout gets to 6 SPPs and levels, then you'll make us come in here and you'll make a scout roll, and you'll do that before you choose your skill in game. If you choose your skill in game first before you do your scout roll, then you lose your scout. I mean, it's just bad luck, but that's the way it goes. So when you hit 6 SPP, you'll come in here. When you level a scout, you'll come into the scouting rolls channel. I forgot we had a separate channel for that. You'll post the picture of the guy that leveled. So this guy that he created leveled, got to 6 SPP. He's going to say dice roll for this guy was a 91. And that ended up being nothing. But if it was, then you'd get either a boom or a bust based off of your scout rolls. We'll look at those here in a little bit. And then once I get all that stuff done and I let you know, then you can come in and level your player in game. If you don't get anything from your scout roll, I'll say something like this. Nothing on this one, so you can level him up as normal. So then you can go in game and level him up how you want. But that's how the scouts work. Now, when you create a team, just make sure you put that A, B, or C after it, and then you put the screenshot in the scouting created scouts channel, and then that way we'll get you marked up. Once I get you marked up, what it'll look like is on this spreadsheet, which I'll put the link in, everybody have access to. You can go to the Scouts Use channel, and you'll have in here how many scouts you have. For instance, Chet Sweezy has 3. So if we went down to wherever Chet Sweezy is, here, he used his 3. So this right here means he has none available. He's already used them all. So this is where I'll mark him. Like Blitz, for instance, never used his A Scout. So he still has an A Scout he could have used. And you can use them throughout the 3 seasons. They carry over for seasons, but not for eras. So at the start of this new era, everybody resets. Custom logos. We want everybody to have a custom logo for their team. You're more than welcome to create your own if you want. If not, get in touch with Astro. If he has time, he'll try to create one for you. Just depends on how his workload is and how much time he has. He'll post in the Discord, in the team creation channel, there is a pinned message that has a URL link to get the Steam or the package file that you need in order to have our logos. And there's instructions on how to get that done, or anybody in the Discord that's done it can tell you how to do it. It's pretty easy. Stadiums, everybody will get their stadium enough gold before they start the season with their team to build their stadium up to level 4 and to choose a free enhancement. So part of the preseason admin work that we'll do is we'll get you enough gold for you to be able to do all that. And then when all that's done and said and done, you'll have 1150 in your treasury to create your team. Once everything's done, we'll post a screenshot of your roster in the Discord under team creation, I think it is, maybe. Yeah, team creation. And then that way we'll have screenshots of it, and we'll know what your team build was to start. Scouting flags, I pretty much explained those earlier. You have the A, the B, and the C. This is how they work with the boom and bust rolls. If your A scout levels to level 2 at 6 SPP, you come in, you do a die 100 roll. If it ends in a 1 to a 10, you bust. If it ends in a 11 to an 85, if nothing happens, just a normal player, 86 to 100, he booms. If you boom, you get an extra free skill, basically. When we say free, we mean that not that you get it free cost, you still have to pay the TV value for that skill, but you'll get an actual extra skill that you wouldn't have. So, for instance, if that player gets to be a legend and has would normally have 6 skills, he'll actually have 7 because he'll have that free skill that he got from the boom. So you'd have 7 skills instead of 3. Or at level 2, you'll have 3 skills, or 2 skills instead of 1. Sorry. So that's what a boom is. If you roll a 100, natural 100, you get the free skill and you get fan favorite added to that player. Fan favorite is right here. You can read what that skill does. It's a very good skill, very nice to have. If you bust, then you will have to roll on the bust table, which is another die 100. And if you roll a 1, this table here is what would happen, depending on what you roll. If you roll a 1, the player dies immediately. You have to remove him from your roster. If you roll a 2 through a 20, he's injury prone, which means he gets a niggle injury added to his player card, which I can do with the tool I have. If you get a 21 to 35, he's lazy, which means he gets minus move. 36 to 50, a mushy skull, he's minus AV. 51 to 64, roid rage, which means he gets wild animal. Nothing more fun than seeing a war dancer with wild animal. 65 to 78, he's selfish, so he gets loner. 79 to 92, he's unfocused, which means he gets bonehead. 93 to 96, he's punch drunk, which is really stupid. And 97 to 100, split personality, which means he gets take root. If you bust and get a nega skill, you cannot fire that player until they either A, reach 16 SPPs, or B, take a permanent injury. If they already had a permanent injury before they get to 6 SPP and get that nega trait, then you can fire them immediately. They just have to have a permanent injury or reach 16 SPP before you can fire that player. So it forces you to play with a potentially hazardous player for a small amount of time, or even a larger amount of time, depending on how long it takes you to get to 16 SPP or get niggled or get a permanent injury. You'll notice back on my Amazon team, my B scout here failed her scout roll. She busted. And then she rolled the loner trait. That's why she has loner. But the skill that she got at 6 SPP when she scouted and busted was an edge bump. So I decided to I didn't have a choice. I had to keep playing her until she hit 16 or got permed. But once she hit 16, she rolled a move boost. So now she's edge boosted, move boosted with loner. I decided to keep her. And then since then, she's rolled and got guard. So even though she's loner, and I could fire her at any time because of 16 SPP, I didn't, and I won't, because she's still a great piece. She's got blodge, so she's got the dodge skill for dodging. I don't have to waste a potential loner reroll on that. And she's mobile with guard, so I can pretty much move her where I want, put her guard where I want, and if she gets injured or killed, then so be it, right? So this is an instance where I chose to continue playing a busted scout. A lot of people wouldn't, depending on what the nega roll was and how their skills have played out, but there are cases where you would, and this is a good case and a good example of when you would keep one. Okay, free agents. This is the big piece. So a lot of this I've already mentioned. You can only ever have 3 total free agents on your team. They can never go above your salary cap unless you already own the 3 and they level in game and go above it that way. But whenever you hire a new free agent, your total of your all free agents already on your team plus who you're hiring cannot go above your salary cap. Salary cap to start the season will be what your draft cap is. After week 1, everybody's salary cap is $600. Available free agents can be found on our website. I'll show you that here in just a second. And I'll show you how the 3 randomly selected works. Let's actually do that right now. So if you go to oldworldfootball.com, when you first come in, it's going to take you to the homepage here. If you go to, well, I'll just go to this website real quick. You got a standings page, which shows you the current standings. So you got your 3 divisions in the AFC, AFC Central, AFC North, AFC South. 4 teams in each. The 5th team here was a replacement team, that's why you see 5 there. So, Darkenraw, for instance, played all 11 teams in his AFC once, which included his 3 division mates. And then he played all of his division mates a second time. So he played Cherry Crush twice, McLean twice, Schleiss twice. That's how the full season plays. Schedule, just kind of exactly what it is, schedule. And then you can look at records. So there's your schedule. You can look at, and that's a running total of results throughout the season. You can look at records. There's a bunch of different records, casualties all the way through. You can look at the current seasons in Blood Bowl 2 or previous seasons in Blood Bowl 1 and show you all the records. And then if you go to rosters, there's a few things here in rosters. And I'll actually go through, before we hit the free agents real quick, for those of you that are wanting to start planning for potential teams to draft in the draft, you can look at current races in the current season, which is Era 8. So you could go look at my Amazon team, for instance. Sorry, that's not it. There. Hit the view button. It's going to pull up my Amazon team here, so you can see what my Amazon team looks like currently. There we go. So that's all the stats from the team. That's the players. The 3 gold cards are my 3 current free agents. Okay? So you can look at any team that's currently playing, see what they got, in case, like, for instance, I'm going to drop my franchise. So let's say you want to see what my franchise looks like to determine if you might potentially want to go after Amazon's and draft this franchise. You can look at it there. How you can tell which franchises are available is in the Discord. If you go to franchises available, you can scroll through any of these and you can see these franchises are available. And you can look and you can see Lizard Pool BBC, which is a Lizard team. So you know that franchise is available, and those are the players that are on that franchise that are available. So that kind of give you an idea of how you might potentially want to play in your draft for which team, race, etc. Now, free agents. Let's go view the Amazon free agents here. You can select which race you want to view. Hit the view button. So we've got 2 different sections here. We've got what's available and the overall pool. So if you're thinking you want to draft Amazons and you're going to draft my franchise and keep the 2 players I mentioned, my legendary blitzer and the linewoman, now you know you've got, like I said, 500 salary cap, so you got 150 that you could spend in free agents to finish out building your team. So you can look through here and you can say, okay, I want to see all the blitzers that are available. Okay, so we got a bunch of blitzers in here, and this is what's all available on the free agent market. And let's say, okay, I like this girl, and she's 130, so that's one that I could possibly go after as a free agent. Now, this will give you an idea of what all's available in the pool for each position. For here we got catchers. Then here we got linewomen, and then at the bottom we're going to have throwers. So there's only 8 throwers available right now. So that's what's in the free agent market. Now, each week when we have the free agent pool reset, and this happens in the preseason as well, this available section is going to be regenerated, and it's going to randomly select 3 from each position. So 3 blitzers, 3 catchers, 3 linewomen, 3 throwers out of anything that's in this overall pool. So these 3 throwers are 3 of the 8 throwers that were in that pool. So when you're going to draft a free agent or try to sign a free agent, you can only pick from this available section. So you're only going to have 3 blitzers available. Now, the one that you just seen for 130 that you kind of liked, yep, she's not in here, so you can't draft her yet. You can't sign her as a free agent until she comes into this section. But you can look at what you got here. You got an edge boosted one for 130. You got this Mighty Blow guard one for 130. And then you got this one over here for 160. She's going to be too much, so you can't get her. But you might choose this Mighty Blow guard one. Say, okay, 130, I'm going to bid on her. So you bid the 130, boom, you win the bid. You can now get this free agent, and she's on your team. That 130 that you bid, not counting free agent tax. If you have free agent tax available or part of it, you have to pay that as well. That comes out of your team treasury. So let's say this girl would be $10K free agent tax added on. So she'd be $140 to sign. So you spend $140 out of your treasury, boom, you got her. So that's kind of how the free agents work. Every week, this pool will reset on Sunday evening or Monday before the new week of free agents works. It goes live. I'll update in Discord on the free agent bidding channel. You'll see me post in here, for instance. Let me find down here. And I'll show you how you bid. There you go. So bam, I'll ping everybody and I'll say free market is open for the current week, blah, 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 blah. If you want to bid, you get a screenshot of the player card. So you say you're bidding on this one here, you just do a screenshot of just that player card, like Michael's did here. And you say, hey, I'm bidding 270, which in this case, this player, Werewolf, was 230. But because of all the skills and value, the free agent tax added to it was 40. So he's bidding the minimum, which is 270. He could have bid more on it. If he thought there's another Necro team out there that could bid on him, this Werewolf 2, and get into a bid war with him, he could have opened it for, say, 290 or 300. So you don't have to bid just the minimum. You can bid more depending on other races out there and their needs, and if you think they're going to go after them as well. So that's a basic overview of how free agents works, how bidding works. The bidding closes at 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. I'll process all bids Sunday night to Monday through Monday. And then once all bids are processed, we'll run the script to repopulate the new available pool. It's randomly selected 3 players from each position. And then the free agent week will open for the current week, which will go until that new next Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. If multiple coaches bid on the same player, then a bid war starts. We'll go over that whenever it gets to that point. We don't normally have that happen, but it can. Free agent window, I've already pretty much told you about that. After the completion of week 11 of the current season, whenever the first 11 matches are done, free agents close for that current season. You can never buy a free agent again until the start of the new season. Free agent tax, you add the value of the skills. So a normal would be 20K, a double would be 30, armor 30, move 30, edge is 40, and strength is 50 for all those skills that are earned through leveling. And depending on what the value of those skills are, it adds that free agent tax. So the one that I mentioned on the Amazon's, the Blitzer, would actually, since she had 2 regulars, it would be 40K. So she'd be at 20K tax. So she'd have spent 150 instead of 140. 50K is the most of the tax that would be on there. So that's how that works. Trades, you can trade in the middle of the season. I'm not going to go into this right now because this is one of the pieces that will change just a little bit for the new era. Once that change is done, we'll post it in Discord, and we'll have a new rule sheet here that I have the change on it. Just remember, you can trade during the season. The only thing that can be traded again is players. In this case, is players, scouts, and gold. Or sorry, not scouts, just players and gold. Sorry. Yep. They can include anything with golden players. That's it. No scouts. This has nothing to do with your with how the draft works. This is just trades within the season. Admin games. We do admin games to get SPP on players where we need to fix things when we need to. Yeah, glitter. We do that for glittering prize rolls. This is all stuff that just it happen as it happens. There's really no reason for me to waste time on it here. The market, which is free agent market, handles all all the work that we need to do for anything we need to get onto teams or players on the teams or skills, stuff like that. If you get a Rotter or a Zombie, if you're a Nurgle or Necro team that has a free agent or scout tag on it, we can work with you for you to sell that player and then get enough money to repurchase the player without that tag. Would stay with the same name. You could just remove that scout and free agent tag. It's an easy way for us to get that tag removed from the system. So we'll work with you on that potentially. Don't ever fire a player on your team without asking me or Commissar Yerrick first. There's certain players where we would want to get them back into the free agent market. So always, if you choose to fire a player, always ask me or Yerrick first. We'll look at the player and your team real quick, and we'll say, yes, you can either fire him, or no, you can't fire him outright. We want to buy him from you and get him into the free agent market. So just keep that in mind. Never fire a player without asking first. Financial fair play. This is something that's in a lot of leagues. You might be familiar with it with other leagues. You can read all the rules here, the in-depth rules. The basic gist of it is the overdog in a game cannot spend... Sorry, not the overdog. The underdog in a game cannot spend more than 40K out of their team treasury if they are 150K or lower. So, if I'm the underdog, I have 150K in my treasury, I can only spend 40K of that, so I could spend down to 110. That's what's right there. If I have 200K in my treasury, then I can spend the 50K to get myself down to 150, and then the additional 40 that this limit is. So I could spend a total of 90K out of my treasury. That's the easiest way to understand it. Overdog can spend whatever they want. Underdog can only spend down to 110. That's the easiest way to remember it. Underdog can never go lower than 110 out of their treasury. If the underdog, say, only has 100K, then you can still only spend 40K out of your treasury. You can only go down to 60. Or if they had 50K, you can only go down to 10. So just keep that in mind, that anything from 150 or lower, you can only spend 40K out of it. If you have any questions, just ask in Discord. Somebody will answer you with what the rule is. If you or your opponent accidentally spends too much, immediately ping in admin and we'll reset the game as quick as we can to get you going again in that game. Playing your game. All coaches are required to be proactive in their scheduling. We are very, very conscious of this. We want everybody to play your matches. Now, we realize real life happens. Sometimes you can't. If something happens in real life where you know you're not going to be able to play a game for that week, Get a proxy coach to play your game. Any of the admins will do it. If they can't, then try to get somebody else. Or if you have somebody else you want to play it, that's fine. You'll have to give your credentials to them. But we trust all the coaches here, and if you give your credentials to them and then you want to change your credentials after that, feel more than free to do that. But if you do not try to get a proxy, then you will forfeit the match and you will take a hit on the 51 SPP rule. So it's a heavy hit, and it's a chance for you to lose some really good players. Get a proxy to play your match. It's as simple as that. If you know you can't make it, then get a proxy. We want the matches getting played. If you don't play your matches, admin games hurt the league in general. Admin results. So all matches need to be agreed upon, and you need to post things in the Discord channels. If you do private DMs to schedule your match, that's fine. But one of you needs to post in the scheduling thread, hey, we're set and scheduled to play on day A at 8 a.m. So that way it's listed and posted, and we can follow the proper channels if admin results do need to be done. You can read through this stuff. If anything looks wrong before the match starts, don't play it. We'll reset, or we'll do whatever we need to do. Concedes in game are not permitted, period. Doesn't matter. If your team's getting wrecked and you don't like it, do not concede. You can leave your players on the ground if you want. Choose not to pick them up and do stuff with them, or you can choose to try to go after your opponent's best player and just foul the shit out of him and try to kill him. However you want to do it, it's fine. Just do not concede. That is absolutely a thing that will get you banned from the league. Post game, once it's completed, you know how to do all that stuff. If there were any kind of issues at all, do not approve the match. Just click no. Let the admins know. We'll go in and we'll figure out what's going on and we'll fix it. Here's your proxy coach section. The biggest thing to remember out of this, it has to be an OFL coach that plays as your proxy, and it may not be a coach from your same conference. So any of the other 11 coaches in your conference cannot play that unless the commissioners approve it beforehand. So, same thing with regular scheduling with a proxy coach. He'll schedule for you. If you're not comfortable doing so, with giving the credentials and stuff, there are ways to get around that. Both teams can create a custom team that's exactly identical to the one that they're playing, and they can just go play a one-off game, and then we'll apply the results accordingly. You'd send a screenshot of the winnings to the commissioner, and then we'd have to admin it into the league. It's a lot of work for the admins. We don't want to have to do that, but it is a potential possibility if needed. Use that as an absolute last resort. If a coach chooses not to use a proxy, he will receive the 2-0 concession. He won't get any SPPs, no gold, no MVPs, and the F51 SPP rule will be applied. So anybody that's 51 SPP or more will roll a die 6. On a 1, 2, or a 3, they leave your team. You lose them. On a roll of 4, 5, and 6, they stay on your team and you're safe. For every single player that's over 51 SPP on your team. Disconnects, you can read through this, but basically we want you to try to play the match to completion, so we'll do it on a case-by-case basis, but we're pretty much going to want you to play the match again unless it's turn 16, 15, something like that, and it's a foregone conclusion. But read through that section and give you more details on that. Unplayed matches. If a match doesn't get played, we will admin results based on these points that you see here. Notice that there are some that will not give you SPPs or gold. There are some that will apply the 51 SPP rule, so be conscious of that. There are times where you could lose players if you don't play your game. Again, we want all matches to be played. So the basic gist here is all scheduling threads go up on Monday. You're expected to get into your scheduling thread and post something by Wednesday evening. You're always expected to post at least 2 available time slots that you can play, day and time. The weeks run from Monday to Monday, Monday evening to Monday evening. If you don't get on and post your availability until Saturday or Sunday, and your opponent posted by Wednesday and gave the available 2 days and times, and you guys aren't able to get your match in, it's going to be on you. You're the one that's going to lose because you didn't wait. You waited until the end of the week to post, and your opponent posted everything in a timely manner. So to cover your own butt, make sure you post in your scheduling thread at least 2 available days and times that you can play by Wednesday evening. That will always cover your end of the deal, no matter what. And then we had to go on based off of what happened. Did one coach approve of the day and time, but then didn't show? Did, whatever the case is, we'll go from there, and you'll kind of see all of those in this section here. So read through that. Replacement coaches, I'm not going to touch on that. You can read it. Playoffs, you can read through all that. Postseason, once we start the playoffs, when a team gets eliminated from the playoffs, they get to do a glittering prize roll, which gives them potential bonuses. Really cool stuff. You choose if you're going to protect your franchise or not. We get ready for player drafts for the new season. Minimum salary, or actually, no, sorry. Every active team can get a free 0 to 16 rookie for no cost. And then the bottom 15 gets a free level to any level 1 player on their roster. Doesn't matter who it is. Minimum salary cap is set for the draft for the new season for any new coaches coming in mid-era. Training camp, all teams receive a 0-0 admin draw. So at the start of a new season, everybody starts with a fully clear roster with no MNGs. And then one random player gets a season MVP, basically. We do the supplemental draft to start the next season. Gentleman's agreement. It's a privilege to play in the OFL. Admins put a lot of time into making this league work. There's multiple admins. We all do our own amount of work in here. Commissioner Yerrick and myself put the most time in as we do the heavy bulk part of the work. But the other admins also do stuff as well, so they are definitely dedicating a lot of their time and hours to this. There's definitely a lot of upkeep. Do not abuse anything. Please appreciate the work and time and effort that we put into this. If anything happens that seems wrong or not right, try to get screenshots to get proof. Anything that you can, send that to any of the admins, and we'll look into it. If you don't like the league, if it's just too much for you and you don't want to do it, let Yerrick know. He'll typically have replacement coaches ready to go. And if you don't want to finish out the season, hopefully we'll have a replacement coach to take your spot. We don't want to ask anybody to play in a long season that is just not enjoying it and it's just not for them. So we're not going to ask you to play 13 more weeks of pain if you just don't like it. All we ask is that you please don't delete your team or your players. At least get with me or Yerrick first so we can get all of your players back if you decide to leave the league. That way we don't lose those players from the free agent market. It's hard enough to get the free agent market populated with certain races and certain positions. If somebody just deletes their team and leaves and takes their players with them, that really hurts the overall league. So please just keep that in mind if you decide you're not going to continue with the league. Here, if no one's forcing you to play, if you're not having fun, you're complaining all the time, then maybe you should consider playing in a different league and not here. It is a dice game. Bad things happen. If you're getting bad dice and your opponent is getting good dice, that is just how the game goes. Get through that match. Continue on. Don't belittle your opponent. It's not their fault, that they're dicing the shit out of you. It sucks. We've all had it happen to us. Just get through that game and move on to the next match. We all need to get along to make this work. Be a gentleman. Then it's pretty simple. If you can't do that, then this probably isn't the league for you. A lot of people's time is needed to play in this league, so we need to respect the people here because they have given you 2 hours of their time to make this league work. So be mindful of that. It's not just your 2 hours of time, it's your opponent's 2 hours of time too. Respect others. If someone is not respecting others or you, report it to Yerrick or myself. One of the two of us will get with the other and we'll discuss things and we'll determine the right course of action. Too long didn't read. Pretty simple. We're all adults. Fucking act like it or get out of the league. It's pretty easy and simple, guys. It's a lot of stuff that I just covered. Hopefully, most of it made sense. Again, if you have any questions at all, just post in Discord. Anybody can answer. There's a lot of coaches here that have been in this league for a long time. They pretty much know most of the rules. If they don't, they'll definitely make sure the admins see it, and we'll get you an answer as much as we can. Again, you're coming in the start of a new era, which is the perfect time to come in. Everybody's starting fresh with new teams, and everybody will be pretty much on an even keel. Really, really pay attention to, or kind of get a grasp on the draft and how it's going to work. Once we start the first round or we start the draft and everything gets started, you'll kind of see real quick and easy how it goes. And what you'll do is, one other thing I forgot to mention too, when it's your turn to draft, you'll say, for instance, Ken's drafting first and he wants to draft my Amazons. We'll use that as an example again. He's going to say, with the first pick of the draft, I take Amazons and I'm going to draft the franchise team, my Final Fantasy, and I'm going to keep these two players. Player A is Linne X2 Sea Scout and Fukumi Free Agent. So he'll list both of those players' names. That way we'll know those players are locked. The rest of the players will go into either the free agent market or get it removed from the game, depending on how it needs to go. And that's how his pick would go. Let's say Krep's the next one to go. He says, okay, for the second pick of the draft, I'm going to take Chaos Dwarves, new franchise, team name, Chorf Lovin' ABC. And he can't choose any franchise players because it's a new franchise. So he'll be going in the free agent market to start the season. So that's all he has to post. New franchise, and this is my team name. Race and team name. And then let's say Thul's next. He says, I'm going to select, with the fourth round pick, I'm going to select Orcs, existing franchise. I'm going to take my protected franchise to Hurt 'em Boys. And I'm going to pick, player A, player B, and player C as my franchise players. And those three franchise players, remember, have to fall under his free agent cap to start, or he can't take those three players. So kind of a quick example of how the picks go when you do the draft. So pay attention to that, kind of dig around in that a little bit. I will post this link for this spreadsheet so you can see kind of an idea of how the draft works. You can kind of have access to this and just view it and kind of get an idea. You can look at these other ones. These are mid-era season drafts, so you can notice that we only had 15 coaches come in and then the new season to season 2. And this is how they picked. Cordaris drafted Kimry first, and then Chaos, Orcs, Necro, all the way down. And if they protected a team, if they took an existing franchise, whatever. And then season 24, which is the current season that we're in, we only had 9 coaches draft in that season. Because all the other coaches that were in the league kept their existing teams. So I drafted Amazons in season 22. I played them 22, season 23, and this season 24. You don't have to keep the team through seasons. I could have dropped the Amazons in the next season, season 23, and went with a new race if I wanted to. But typically you're going to keep your team if you like them and if they survive, because that's where your continued development and growth across the whole era comes into play. And you get a team that's built up pretty high like my Amazons or others. These last two you don't really need to pay attention to. This is just kind of for our own admin keeping. You can look at them if you want. Doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt anything. This is just who made the playoffs in the current season, and this is their glittering prizes rolls, and if they've been completed, whatever. Like this guy got a hidden gem, so he got a free rookie for up to 10 SPP, and I've already taken care of that and gotten his rookie to him. So that's what those other sheets are for. I will post this link in Discord. I'll go over real quick just the Discord channel so you get an idea what they are. General, you know what that is. Rules has a link to the rules that we're looking at currently, and any other announcements we make. For the rules, announcements is just general announcements for the whole thing. That's a separate ladder league we have if you just want to play matches on the side for fun. Admin channel is just for admins only. Waiting list is where Yerrick will post how things are looking on the waiting list. Franchise available, I've already talked to you about. That's where all the franchises are that are available to be taken. Recruitment for new coaches that want to be recruited. Free agent bidding is for bidding on new free agents each week. Post-match completed screenshots. So like at the end of the season, once we're done with doing all the postseason stuff, we'll post in here to say, hey, this guy is done. His stuff is completely ready to go. This is franchises that are protected, so you can't touch those, but we have screenshots of them. The glittering prize rolls for the end of the season. When you create scouts, when you roll for scouts, team creation, that's where you put your screenshots for your team when it's created and ready to go. This is for during season stuff. Match reports will just show match reports for the whole season. This will probably be going away because SpikeBot's going to disappear, so we'll have to figure something else out here for the next season. Scheduled matches, you can post here if you get scheduled with somebody if you want, for if it's going to be streamed or something like that for people to follow along. This isn't where you'll post all of your stuff for your scheduling your match. You'll do that in your individual divisions down here, which we'll get to in just a second. Standings is just a updated standings, which looks like we're not even using. I don't think we've ever really used it. Playoff scheduling, this is for all the playoff stuff. Playoff spoilers shows the results of playoff games. And it's a spoiler tag, so if you don't want to know what's going to happen, you don't have to go in there and look. We're not doing anything with dead free agents anymore. We were for a while, keeping track of them there. Drafting, this will be everything that has to do with the new draft that's getting ready to come up. Gambling Den is only for playoffs gambling. Trading and drafting, that's for doing trades and stuff, marking up our trades for our own historical purposes for whenever trades are done. So you can see here, for instance, this is what happens when the draft happens. So for the 7th pick in the last draft, 03 Phil Pota selected a new franchise team, Humans. And then Bob picked an existing franchise, Dwarves, Stout Loggerhead All-Stars. New franchise. This guy selected an existing franchise, Necro, Mordheim Resurrectionists. And he franchised these 3 players. So he had to have a salary free agent cap to start of whatever the total values of those 3 players were. So this also will give you kind of an idea of how the draft has went. So you can scroll all the way back up and find the draft that started the first season of this last era. This is all for stuff for streaming and broadcasting. This one here is for anybody in the OFL, videos or streams. Actually, that's just for videos. Streaming is here, sorry. That's for streams that are going live. Discums, this is just for this guy. Nobody else posts in here. Just leave that channel for him only. And then our actual conference and division channels. The individual divisions, North, Central, and South. In the AFC, NFC, all the way down. So when we're doing division play, you'll post in there. There'll be a schedule come out that looks kind of like that. So you'll know that week 14, that's the schedule for week 14. Those 4 guys will post all of their scheduling here in this channel at that point. The first 11 games of the season will all go in the conference because that's where everybody in the conference are playing. So you'll see back up here, there's the schedule for week 11. So everybody that's in this schedule will post here their available times and days, blah, blah, blah. And then once you get scheduled, you'll say, hey, me and Coach A are scheduled to play on Saturday at 9 p.m. So NFC would do all theirs here, WFC, LFC. Then we got some miscellaneous goofing around stuff down here, and then voice channels. So that's Discord. All right, so that's going to be it, guys. Hopefully, I know this is a little long, but hopefully it was pretty explanatory for everybody, and everybody has a really good idea now of what to expect. I may have missed a few things here and there. If I did, I apologize. Again, feel free to post any questions you have in the Discord, and we will get to those and answer those as quick as we can. So good luck to everybody in the upcoming new era and season, and we'll see everybody then. Have a good one, guys.
Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my sisters and my brothers. Lo, there do I see the line of
My people, back to the beginning.
Lo, they do call to me. They bid me take my place among them.
in the halls of Valhalla.
With the brave,
They live